What if everything came with a free Star Wars audiobook from Audible? Like at the cantina.
I'll take a half-cap spotchka, lightweight.
Here's your free audiobook download for Master and Apprentice from Audible.
Or getting your pod racer serviced.
My pod racer needs upgrades to the coupling and stabilizer.
And here's your free audiobook download for Resistance Reborn from Audible.
Life in the galaxy doesn't work that way, but there is one place you can go where you can get a free Star Wars audiobook from Audible. And that's utini.com/audible. Click the Audible logo and start your 30-day free trial, which includes a free audiobook download. So visit utini.com/audible and get your free Star Wars audiobook download today.
Hey, I'm Alex Segura, author of Poe Dameron Free Fall, and you are listening to The Living Force.
Welcome to the Living Force Podcast,
Hi, I'm holding for General Hugs.
a Utini production.
Leia has an urgent
Message for him.
Episode 77, Poe Dameron Free Fall Roundtable Part 2.
About his mother.
On this episode, birthday shout-outs, a fantasy football update, and the Utini team talks about the Star Wars novel Poe Dameron Free Fall by Alex Segura.
permission to jump in her next swing and blow something up.
And now, here are your hosts, Eric Eilerson, Meg Dowell, and Wes Jenkins.
Hello and welcome to The Living Force, everyone. We are here in a very unorthodox little episode this week. I am one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me is nobody with a doctorate. For the first time in maybe the history of the show, I'm not sure, but I am joined by Wes Jenkins. Hey, buddy.
What's going on? What's going on?
Oh, just loving the life, loving the cooler Monday evening weather in old Chicago myself. And we are also joined by Meg Dowell. What's up, Meg?
What is up? Hello.
That's right. Meg, you were so amazing on Lightspeed skipping recently. We decided to fire both Corey and Charles and just bring you on. So I'm glad this has worked out.
Yeah, I don't know if you could call it a promotion, but like, I'll take it, whatever.
Yeah,
Of course.
Well, double what you were getting paid earlier. There you go.
Perfect. Fantastic.
Well, and if you are new to this show, hi to all of you listening. We are usually live on Monday nights, but because of some things we're going to talk about a little later in the show, we were unable to do that this week. But we are The Living Force. We are the podcast of utini.com, where you can head for all your Star Wars reading needs, including reviews, book collections, ultimate guides, timelines, new releases, all that good stuff. And most weeks you can find us live on Twitch every Monday night at utini_US. But this week, guys, it's just us. Just doing audio.
That's
All
awesome,
free.
right? What's wrong with that?
Yeah. This is great. But a little bit of why we're going audio this week. We will be talking later on in the show about Poe Dameron Free Fall, doing a part 2 of our Roundtable series. But, listeners, I want to be honest with you. I usually lie to you every week, but today I'm going to be honest with you and tell you, Corey, Dr. Corey Helton, our fearless leader, since he started Utini, 3-4 years ago at this point, has not taken a single day away from Slack, away from creating anything, all the while going to medical school, doing residency and everything. So, he's on vacation. Just straight up, he is on vacation from Utini for a couple weeks for the first time ever. Much deserved. And because of that, his computer runs the show on Monday nights. So even though Wes is the one that's making sure we all look good in all the screens, Corey's computer is putting out all the info. So because we don't have that, we were back to the dark ages now. We're lighting our computers by candlelight. I just have a megaphone in front of me, and I'm yelling to Wes and Meg in their respective areas. But I think we'll be okay.
Corey has situated the funds to get that ISP to bump his upload speed up maximum power, whereas myself is at the very bare minimum, and it would have been a choppy at best show if we had tried to push it live.
It would not have been nearly as much fun, and that's what we're about. We're about the fun here, but also because Corey's been gone, I have been in de facto charge of Utini in the meantime, and there haven't been too many fires. Only 18 people have rioted and quit. So I think we're doing okay, guys. I don't know. It's been a couple days in now. It's weird.
I think it's been all right. All hail our powerful leader, Eric
There you
Iverson.
go. Good. Excellent. You're reading the copy I gave you. I appreciate that. A couple announcements before we get into Poe Dameron this week, though. One thing I want to talk about is something a little bit on the personal side that has kind of expanded in the last 24 hours, and that is a GoFundMe that I was fortunate enough to be a part of to help out the trans community that is called Trans Lives Are Human Lives, or Trans Rights Are Human Rights, This is the Way. This is a fundraiser put together by Maggie and Candace from the Geeky Waffle and myself to basically, how do I say this in like a non-angry way, to help out the trans community at a time when some people in Star Wars are definitely not acting respectfully like they should. And there was a lot of things online around the Mandalorian cast that were really disheartening. So a few of us got together and said, you know what? We just want to support these people that Star Wars is not at the moment. And in the past couple of days, we've made over $6,000 that we're going to donate to the Trans Legal Fund to help people. All kinds of Star Wars people have been donating and sharing. And it's been kind of tremendous. Meg, you were awesome enough to do a write-up on Dork Side of the Force today about it. This is a crazy event. How have the last 24 hours been to you seeing this whole thing explode?
You hit your goal within less than 2 hours, your original goal of just 1,000, which is amazing enough in itself. And, a few hours into that, I was like, why am I not talking to them about what they're doing? So I did. But as I was writing, as I was putting the interview together, I kept checking and I kept having to change the numbers in my article because it just kept going up, which is hilarious and amazing. You guys are turning something awful into something amazing. And I'm not going to talk about it too much because I'm tearing up already because it's just that great. But I'm, this fandom, all of us have the power to do good and to take the awful things that are happening and, put a positive spin on it in an actionable way that actually makes a difference. So you guys are great. All of us are. We can be,
Yeah. And I think that's the ultimate point of it that has been really amazing to see is people really just stepping up, and it's not in anger against something else. It's to put more joy in, which at UTini has always been our thing. As of now, the fundraiser is at $6,840 as of time of recording. Who knows what it'll be by the time this episode goes out? But if you are interested, if you have any means at all to help out or even to share, it's pinned on my personal Twitter at Eric Eilerson in the top post. I'll keep it there for the duration if you want to go check it out. It has Baby Yoda in his little bassinet with the trans flag on it, and it's lovely.
Yeah,
so
that was a great graphic, whoever created that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And there's also Maggie and Candace have been working on artwork to put on a TeePublic of that little Baby Yoda too. So again, by the end of the week, who knows what else will have come out of this campaign, but all details are there. Couple other celebration things. Y'all, we've had birthdays this week.
Birthdays!
2020 has neutralized so many great things. So, gosh darn it, we're going to celebrate a couple of birthdays. Most embarrassingly, a couple days ago, one of our own team members had a birthday and did not tell us.
We are sorry. We are so collectively sorry. We are collectively sorry.
Trevor Davey, you may know him as the Legends guru, the keeper of the timeline, the master truly of all things Star Wars literature. I mean, the man has easily the biggest Star Wars book / associated media collection I've ever seen. Right?
It's overwhelming. It's definitely overwhelming. And when anybody asks like a Legends question, he automatically knows, and then adds the other books and comics and like newspaper clippings to whatever it was related to. And I'm like, how on earth did you unearth these things about this character?
Yeah, that's not hyperbolic. Literal newspaper clippings are things that Trevor has used. So, Trevor, happy birthday. We're so happy to have you on the UTNE team. And I look forward to all the new things I will learn and hopefully not forget about things you have learned years and years before. Additionally, we have two very active people in our Discord community that share either a birthday or are very close to the same birthday, and that's Amy and Maggie. I hope you are listening, and I hope you all both had great birthdays this week. I know that the Conja Book Club see you in their chats quite a lot, and I see your names popping up all over the place on various things, from your Star Wars collections to book questions to pictures of Anakin in the fan art tab, all kinds of stuff. So happy birthday. I'm sure that we will be hanging out more digitally this week, but we just wanted to throw that out to you, and we hope you had a great day.
Yeah, happy birthday, Amy and Maggie.
Yeah. Oh, birthdays, guys. I have a birthday coming up in October, and it is weird to think that that's just going to happen, and nothing's really going to be different, because everyone's like, oh, you're going to go out? I'm like, no, it's a pandemic. I'm going to stay with my Star Wars friends on the internet, and that's what I'm going to do. But happy birthday, everyone. And if you have birthdays in your Discord community, let us know. We'll shout you out on the show. We're like a restaurant. You can straight up just lie to us and tell us it's your birthday and get like free cake or something, which I have never done.
Oh man, I've done that too many times.
Wes, it's like
I
dog
must have had
years.
6 or 7 birthdays in a single year.
Well, if you're like Wes, just tell us at Cantina Talk when your birthday is, and we'll send you a happy birthday on the show. Last couple things before we jump into Poe. A reminder that we are in a nice little recess of Star Wars book releases where I hope you're all catching up on your Legends content and your canon content. I did just finish Vector Prime yesterday. I started my new Jedi Order journey. I enjoyed it quite a lot. I started Dark Tides immediately afterwards. We'll see how long that one takes me. But in November, we get a new book. That's right, From a Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back is still coming out on November 10th. There have not been delays, and there are pre-order links over on Utini. Check out our new releases link page and order it, and we get like 3 cents. It'll be great.
Yeah.
All right.
That's funny that you mentioned that you jumped into that second book right after finishing Vector Prime. Because after I have the marathon sessions that I have right before these roundtables, I automatically start reading another Star Wars book like that evening, and then it just kind of trails off from there. But after I finish one, I immediately start reading another one. So I'm glad we're kind of similar in the same like. Well, Thrawn Ascendancy.
Oh yeah, right.
Okay,
oh, that's a good one, man.
Probably got to read that one, you know.
Yeah, but by the time Corey gets back, eventually. But yeah, also let us know what you all are reading. We want to know. A couple of little podcast updates just to. Oh no! No! We changed the format. We changed the format of the show. Stick around to the end for the podcast updates, and also an update on the first week of the Utini Fantasy Football League. That's right. It happened. Football is back. We have a fantasy league, but you got to wait to the end of the show. And also, if you don't care about football, then you don't have to listen to it right now. All right, my friends. That's only 10 minutes of intro. That's not bad.
It's good.
I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
Because we're not on video now, we're not going to have a patron of the week, but get ready next time we are live, which will actually be not next week. Again, end of the show. We'll let you know all about that. We will bring back the patron of the week segment. Okay, now, Poe Dameron Free Fall by Alex Segura. Last week, we talked about the plot synopsis. We talked all about Poe Dameron. We rated the book Meg. Could I get your rating 1 to 10 of Poe Dameron Free Fall?
You may. I mean, I wouldn't say no. That would be awkward.
No, I don't want to.
I don't remember what I gave it when I actually reviewed it, but I'm going to say a 7.4.
7.4. Cool. About.
Yeah.
I think it came in line with everybody, pretty much.
Yeah. I think we averaged around 7.5-ish, somewhere around there. So, ladies, gents, everyone, I am about to try to take over the Dr. Charles Hanko role that Dr. Corey Helton took over last week in leading roundtable questions. They will not be as smooth as Charles. They will not be as silky sweet as his voice tones, but we're going to do our best.
Honorary Dr. Eric Eilerson is what we'll
Yes!
There you
There it is.
There you go.
There it is. All right, so we're going to start off with the, I would argue, co-protagonist of this book almost, Zori Wynn, or as we know her later, Zori Bliss. Let's just start out with a blanket question. Meg, I'll throw this to you first. How did you like Zori in this novel? How was her depiction?
loved her. This is like as much a Zori book as it is a Poe book. We just, we know almost nothing about her from the one story that we've gotten her in so far before this. And to see her at this age where she's at this place in her life where she's just confused and overwhelmed and like wanting to do something or be something, but having no idea what that is. It's not only relatable, but it's, it's refreshing. Like we don't always get tons of stories in Star Wars, of characters who are just in this very chaotic time in their lives. So, to have her just like, struggling with her identity and like, seeming like she's running from something or trying to prove something, even though we don't necessarily know what that is until later. It was really fascinating to me.
Yeah. There's a quote here that Charles wrote down that I really love. It's early on in the book and really tells us all we need to know about Zori from the get-go. It's in that first firefight. It says, Poe fought the urge to run to her and provide some kind of cover. Zori Wynn was more than capable. She could handle herself. So we know from the top, this is not a damsel in distress situation. Again, giving us those Han, Kira, Most Wanted vibes, right? I like what you said about that sense of purpose, Meg, because we find out Zori is the daughter of Ziva Bliss, who's the leader of the Spice Runners of Kijimi, right? We have another legacy story. We talk so much about legacy in Star Wars. Wes, do you think this is a moment where we didn't necessarily need her to be related to Ziva, or do you like the fact that it kind of continues this legacy story?
I actually like this part in the book, and why Segura had put it in there. It's more like a development to where it disguises her name, and it keeps her away from being identified by other criminals. And you didn't really know it at the beginning, because when you started reading the book, you were like, Zori Wynn? I remember the movie, her name was Zori Bliss. This is odd. So even before that, I was thinking when they were describing her, I was like, is Zori Bliss the one in the moon, The Rise of Skywalker? Is that even Zori Bliss? Is that even her? It could be somebody else. And then Zori Bliss turns up later in the book, and we just been reading about somebody that is an off character. But obviously it wasn't. But yeah, I thought it was very fitting, because she's trying to basically carve out something on her own, and a way to do that is to go on these missions without help from her mother. And disguising her name is, I mean, she could disguise her name, but I'm not sure if anybody knows what her appearance, like what she actually looks like. They have like a picture of her or something, but they didn't go too far into that. But disguising your name, I mean, that's the first step. So
yeah, and I always find that interesting in Star Wars. We're like, really, like no one knows who this person is, and then we realize it is a galactic story. I mean, we're talking about billions upon trillions of sentient beings, so it's probably a lot easier to disappear than we think. And I did like that about Zori, acknowledging that her purpose, or her destiny, if you will, is to become the leader of the Spice Runners, right? Like she's not trying to run away from that necessarily. She's like, yes, my mother does run this thing. Yes, I will also run it someday, but I want to achieve merit on my own. And I thought that was interesting and unique, because a lot of the people that we see are either running away from their parents' legacy, like Ben Solo, literally like, I'm going to change my name completely, but I'm also going to change my path so that I am not like my father. I am not like my mother. I am my own person. Or we have the people that are constantly trying to live up to who they were. Like Luke, before he knows that Anakin is Vader, is trying to live up to his dead father, this amazing pilot, this amazing like friend of Obi-Wan, and all these things. And I think Zori's a nice marriage of the two, because she's like, yeah, I'm going to be in my mom's footsteps, but people in this crew, in this gang, need to respect me for me. And I find that to be interesting. Right. And I think it'd be cool to, like, we get inside some of the Spice Runners' heads about who knows what, but it would be interesting to take a straw poll, like, is it like Matt the Radar Technician, where everyone's like, oh yeah, that's Zori Bliss. Like, I know. Like, we all know. This is not a secret. but that is also, right? What a good sketch.
Matt the Radar Technician is just one of the best damn Star Wars characters of all time.
Yeah.
Gonna get that Funko one day, I swear. But what do you guys think? Meg, I want to ask you this, because now we have ideas about the legacy, about, her idea about taking after her mother and yet being her own person. But do you think that Zori wants to be a Spice Runner for other reasons? Like, do you think that she's ever thought about not being a Spice Runner?
I think at this point, the Spice Runners are probably all she knows. You know, when your mom is running it and if you grew up in that environment and that's it for you, you know, to her, it could be like, okay, I am familiar with this and how this works. I want to start there. And if I want to do something, you know, with my life, I want to change this. So maybe I want to do what's familiar and like be in this place that I know, but I don't want to do it the way that it's always been done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that. Like being like, you know, I'm not going to dismantle this whole place, but it could be better.
Yeah.
And she's not going to speak out against her mother because, yeah, I respect her and I want to be respected as a leader. Right. Yeah. I like that. Wes, do you think that we hear a lot about the helmet, right? Zori's design from the start of the Rise of Skywalker press photos, like that helmet was just striking. We're like, this is amazing. It was eye-catching. The Funko looks great. Like it's all the cool stuff. And we find out it is her mom's helmet, and then she has it in Rise of Skywalker. So now, do you think that we're meant to believe like she is the leader of the Spice Runners then in Rise of Skywalker? Like, has she been running them?
See, that's a good question. So she has the helmet, so there's the symbol right there. The leader of the Spice Runners has this gold helmet. Mm-hmm. Now, she either killed her mother, get this helmet, her mom stepped down, retired, or the helmet rolled to her like Boba Fett when he picked up his dead father's helmet.
Oh, God,
and his head didn't fall out, which I don't understand. But
that'll be in the 40th edition supercut.
Oh no!
But she does say that Babu still works for the group in the Rise of Skywalker, so she's still running, or she's still part of the group. But what I don't know. What big question that comes up in my mind is, if she's the leader, then why was she so quick in plotting to leave Kijimi and asking Poe to come with her?
Oh, right. Good point. That's a great point, because she had the captain's medallion or whatever.
Yeah. So she had this out. But if she was 100% in as the Spice Runners leader, I don't think she would have this out. She would have either used that for something else, or did Poe just all of a sudden spark up this desire for her to leave Kijimi? I don't know.
Well, I think Poe sparked up some kind of desire. I don't know if it was leaving Kijimi though.
Just that look, that damn look of his.
God, we're all human. We can't help it. Oscar Isaac smirks. No, it's a great point though, that having that medallion as a way off definitely wouldn't be something a strong leader would do, or at least a dedicated leader to your gang, if you will. That's a great point. And to that note, to kind of round out Zori here, I want to ask you both, actually. We end with Zori saving Poe by literally attacking her mother. Like, she, in that moment, says, all right, Poe, your life is worth my reputation, possibly my own life. Like, there's a lot in that moment. She offers Poe the opportunity to overthrow her mother and remake the Spice Runners into what they want. I mean, it's the classic Star Wars, like, join me, we can destroy the Emperor. Like, Padme, join me, we can destroy it's always Palpatine. But like, you know, we can stay in this evil thing, but make it a little less evil, and we'll be really cool. And then Poe literally says no, drops the blaster she throws to him, and just pieces out, leaving her to fight all on her own. Did this moment, because we don't know if we're going to get more Zori stories anytime soon, did this moment make the Rise of Skywalker intro kind of solidify for you? Do you think that this is a good enough reason to know why she's so pissed? Or do you think we need a little more?
I mean, yeah, that would definitely make me super pissed off. Like,
check. She
went against her entire upbringing and goes against her family, against her crew, just so they can mold this group into something that they had talked about before in past conversations, or in something that's molded into what has arose with this fight between her and her mother. But yeah, I mean, so yes, that would make me uber. I mean, I wouldn't have just had the gun to his face. I probably just would have pulled the trigger immediately. But
there it is.
So yes,
West Bliss.
that definitely warrants her being quite upset. I don't think time kind of heals that wound fast enough. Because, well, hell, what was it? Would it be like 10 years? 12 years?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember oh my gosh, speaking of Trevor is screaming, I'm sure, into the at the show right now. He's like, I know the timeline. It's something like that, though.
Yeah.
Meg, do you agree? Are you pulling the trigger with Wes and just blowing Poe's head off?
I mean, okay. Poe Dameron is a great character. I like him a lot. Mm-hmm. He makes the worst decisions sometimes.
He
like,
does.
dude, like, what are you doing?
These young pilots, I tell you. Come on, guys.
So of course it makes sense that she just like is so upset with him in The Rise of Skywalker because she's had however many years to like think every single day about how angry she is at him after he did this to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it totally makes sense. And I think it's a good moment of like, oh, if you come to Kijimi, you're dead. And it makes sense why he's like, oh, we got to go to Kijimi? Yeah. Like, what happened? Oh, well, I did. Like, there's this girl, I liked her, and I said I was going to join her and rule, but then I like totally backed out at the last second, left her to die with her mom. It was a whole thing. Like,
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Regardless, yeah, Zori, we get you. The living force is behind you, and we're sorry that happened. Now, there's a lot of other cool original characters in this book, including some of the Spice Runners themselves. But what I want to talk about just briefly is Troon, who is the New Republic Security Bureau officer. She's basically like the Callus of the New Republic, if you will. Nice. And it's interesting because she is a New Republic person, so the good guys, theoretically, right? And she is definitely framed as the villain of this story. She's chasing Poe and Zori, who are criminals.
Correct.
And people die around them as they try to bring drugs places. Like, and yet I think this is actually a testament to Segura's writing, is that I did feel this whole story that Troon was like the villain. I was like, oh God, even though she's just trying to arrest these murderers. So how did you guys feel about that kind of narrative shift of making this person kind of trying to just do her job like the bad guy?
I mean, that's like a test of a very well-written villain, I think, is like you don't necessarily, like, you know that they're on a certain side, but you either sympathize with them when you're not supposed to, or you don't when you should. So with Troon, it's kind of like, okay, we know her backstory, we know why she's doing this, she's doing the right thing, but she's also going against our protagonist, so it's like, but we don't want her to succeed.
Right.
Yeah. And Alex didn't write too much about Troon's feelings. It was a lot of actionable sequences and her trying to like track down Poe, track down the Spice Runners. But it wasn't like they didn't really give a lot of reasoning as to why, outside of the Spice Runners killing her entire family in that one couple of paragraphs, I guess.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to know Troon like we got to know Poe, got to know Zori. So yeah, he did some pretty good writing there.
Yeah, it honestly reminded me a little bit of the villain in Resistance Reborn, like that bureaucratic Corellian guy. I forget his name. Like, he was much more evil, I would say, than Troon. Yeah. Like, he got pretty sadistic by the end. No spoilers if you haven't read Resistance Reborn, but it gets pretty dark.
Yeah.
But I always like the bureaucratic person that seems to be a little too stuck in their ways, so they kind of push it. Like, she literally plants false info on Tommaso in this book, going back to Troon, and tells the Spice Runners, oh, he's a traitor, and he wasn't. She just feeds this gang false information so they kill a person she wants vengeance on. So I definitely think that the morally gray area is a little darker than it is lighter. That's with true. Troon. But I did like her. Again, I think most of the I would say we all agree most of the book's enjoyment does fall on the character moments between Poe and Zori, between their adventures rather than kind of Troon's machinations. But I like her being there as an outside force to kind of, keep things going. One other character, just a small little shout out here. Again, we have Vigilch, we have all these other guys. One person we haven't talked about at all is Evie. That's right, we get another droid. The canon droids continue their reign of just greatness. I mean, we've had so many good droids, from obviously BB-8 starting the charge of great sequel era droids, but then we have Pook from Black Spire. Was a very memorable one. How did you guys, Wes, I'll start with you. How did Evie the droid to you stack up to the other great droid additions? Do you think that they kind of matched it? Do you think they were better?
I think Evie was similar in the droids being a kind of a comedic relief for the action sequences, for the main sequence, like when they're trying to take over on the Morazian cruiser, or when they're at the summit on Kijimi. So he was a good Evie was a good, I guess, pairing with Poe, because so literal. Evie was so literal with everything he was saying, and then Poe would play off of those literal lines that they kept conjecturing or whatever. But I thought it was I don't think it stacks up with some of the droids we've seen in the movies, or even with Pook. But again, the droids that they have in the movies are good comedic relief, and I think Evie is similar to that.
Yeah. Meg, thoughts? Is it still below the Pooks and BBs of the world?
A little bit below, I think. But I still really enjoyed her in that comic relief, and I love how it was established that Poe, didn't really like droids that much. He's kind of like, nah, I'm good. But we know that that's later not true, because he has BB-8, who is like a puppy and a friend.
All-star puppy. He rubs his belly. He rubs his belly.
Exactly. So we know that something, is going to change later. So I like that. It's like, character development, but, so.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the cool things, too, about writing prequel stories, right? I mean, I feel like in Star Wars, we are uniquely suited to prequel stories, as we've gotten the prequels were such a huge part of it. And we don't necessarily mind knowing what's going to happen later on with a character's life, as long as we can see the moments. And I do like Segura's way of putting things in, like we talked about last episode, like the light speed skipping explanation, and like the droid relationship evolution, like that kind of stuff. I think it's really fun in Star Wars, maybe more than any other medium, because we want to see why characters go to certain places. And having Poe start, like you said, Meg, I don't know if I care for this droid, to really being emotional when bad things happen to that droid, I think it is really nice. And I mean, if you don't feel anything when bad things happen to droids, then you might be one yourself, frankly. I would check yourself for wires. Like, we all know the saddest part of Rogue One. All right? I mean,
it's terrible.
Yeah, well, I'll agree. Evie doesn't quite get to the levels of Pook and BB-8 and others, but is still a very fantastic droid. I cannot wait to see what kind of droids we get in the High Republic. I will tell you what. And actually, one thing I want to add before we get to our overarching questions now is something that I heard on the Timothy Zahn sit-down interview that was put on by Powell Books over in Portland. They did a Zoom reading with Timothy Zahn and Tom from Del Rey, and they mentioned there are no droids in the Chiss Ascendancy. So, fun fact, if you're reading that book, Wes, I know you're in it right now. If some people have read it already, I didn't notice it as I was going. Not a single droid. So,
yeah,
just heads up.
I haven't stumbled upon one.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
And you shan't. You shan't, my friend. All right. Now, our overarching questions. Again, these were written by Dr. Charles Henkel, who he did not like this book as much as the three of us. I'll tell you that. I think I messaged him for his rating. I think he gave it like a 6.5. So some of that rating is in the wording of these questions. So I will read some of them verbatim, and I will take creative license with others because you ain't here, Charles. Show up for work.
We just like to point out that there's in Charles's case, there's a lot of question marks on some of these words and some WTFs. And so he had some questions about the book, so we're going to try to answer them for him.
Yeah. So we'll go. Here's our first. Charles, this is all for you, buddy. We got you. So our first question here. Poe is talking to Ziva Bliss, and he says, "You have no code of honor. The Spice Runners are a fraud." Bliss let out a long cackle and took another swing at Poe. And Charles says, ... Okay, So what was their cause supposed to be? Still never explained. So, and this can actually tie into the second question, which has Zori talking to Poe, and she says, "What keeps you with us? Do you really believe in what the Spice Runners are about?" To which Charles says, what are they about? Double question mark. Just making money and gaining power? So, we know what Charles thinks about this. Meg, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think? Because he is right. It's never quite spelled out in such specific terms. Like, they don't say, well, we're actually about ending slavery in the galaxy, and that's what we use our money for, or anything like that. If someone asked you, like me, for example, what would you say the Spice Runners of Kijimi are about, and why would Poe think they're a fraud?
My theory, or the way that I see it, I guess, is, the galaxy is in a weird place right now, in whatever point in the timeline we're on, who knows? And it's established that, I think it's even said that, like, the New Republic can't reach everywhere. So there's just a lot of stuff going on that can't necessarily be controlled. So it could be that they want that kind of sense of control, and they want to do that through gaining power somehow and having these established, systems. So when there is an order, you sometimes try to create it, and maybe you don't do that the right way. But...
Yeah, that could be cool, because there is that idea that in this post-Return of the Jedi world, like, the Hutt cartel has been kind of hit real hard by Jabba's death, and some of the bigger, I think some of the bigger gangs like Black Sun and stuff, like, they're kind of dwindling a bit because of the New Republic's influence. So maybe the Spice Runners are trying to make something better. Wes, what do you think?
Yeah, I think right along those lines. I think they're trying to build a crime syndicate where they are the leaders in running spice or smuggling, and they own these trade routes and they own these hyperspace lanes. They were trying to go after those routes. So I think they were trying to, when they were at the summit trying to kill or Ziva trying to eliminate all our competitors, I think that plants a flag as saying, we're going to be the number one smuggling operation, and then once we take over that part, we are going to expand. And so, much like what when the New Republic can't, like what Meg said, the New Republic can't hold, I guess, governmental power or some kind of stronghold over everything in the galaxy. So they can stake out those different parts in the Outer Rim and then just start building up from there. But I think they had an idea of being something more powerful than they already are, but I don't know that they had an idea of where it would go after that, maybe.
Yeah, it does seem like, I honestly think that when Poe gets involved with the Spice Runners, I think he really views it kind of like how we as Star Wars fans view smugglers now, that are like, well, yeah, they're all doing illegal things and they're doing crime, but they are at core, they're all like Han Solo and Lando. Like, they actually all may have a heart of gold, and they're not like murderers. Like, they get in shootouts, but they are pitched as like this life of dangerous adventure. I mean, that's adventure stories since they started being written, right? It's the outlaw that is up against the tyranny of government, but they're actually always working for better people. And I think Poe realizes, I thought this was going to be a place where, everyone was just working for freedom and didn't want the tyranny of, their dads telling them when to go to bed. But actually, this is a murderous kind of organization. And I think that Ziva's idea of, hitting all the other syndicates when they're weak, honestly, is a pretty good plan as far as crime goes. I mean, saying there's no real solid leadership. I'm going to bring everyone here so we can technically form a democracy of smugglers. Oh, psych. I'm actually going to kill you all so there's a dictatorship and it's me. I think is a great point, because I think that ultimately, in Ziva's mind, the Spice Runners of Kijimi are about power and conquest. And in Zori's mind, I think they're probably about, stability and loyalty. And in Poe's mind, it's like about adventure. So they're all seem to be on a different page. And by the end of the book, it seems like Poe is worried that Zori is leaning more towards her mom now about being like, what what are you willing to give up for your humanity in order to keep this quote unquote family alive? So it is interesting, and I agree. I think that them leaving it murky like that can possibly be frustrating, but to me, I like the possibilities that it opens up.
I think a good quote to kind of piggyback off of that is when Poe kind of figured out that the Spice Runners were a sham, and his mother had given him a quote when he was young and said, "You should always make your own choices. We will never take that away from you, but we will teach you enough so that you know how to choose the right path when the time comes." So the time came when Zori was like, join me in this criminal underworld, and he was like, I'm gonna take it back to the house.
Yeah. Oh God, so sorry. Gotta go to school. Be a pilot. Be better pilot. Sorry, Bliss. Am I right? I'm not. Another thing. Another one of Charles's lovely comments here, and we do miss you, buddy. He says, "It bothers me how incompetent some of the characters in this book are." Something we've talked a lot about on The Living Force and Utini is how much we do love competent protagonists. Like, there's something really fun about a story where everyone is at least baseline good at their job. But then Charles goes on and says, Poe bringing a crate full of guns to the prisoners and claiming their rations, a ditch around the arena, somehow keeping every single Spice Runner from helping Ziva, but Poe immediately finds a spot he can jump over. Did you guys find that these were, like, a little bit narratively convenient? Or did it not jump out at you until Charles, the doctor, brought it up here in this question?
I can probably speak for everybody when we first started reading this, we were like, what the hell? What the hell? The guards may have believed Poe in saying that these actually were rations. So most guards without names, they're generally supposed to portray like being incompetent, and they can't. But it's a stretch,
especially in Star Wars. Oh my God! All right, I'll distract the guards. Is just a constant plan, and anyone can do it. Like, it's so easy.
But you can't tell me that there wasn't one crack shot that could shoot over the ditch at Troon. That's part of Ziva's gang. Not one person had a sniper rifle like Aura Singh that was sitting on, I don't know, in the corner up on top of a mesa, if you will, and shoot at Troon. But the ditch must have been huge. It must be the biggest damn ditch you've ever seen in your life.
You think you've seen some ditches? You haven't. You do not know the lengths of this ditch. It is so big, it mentally throws you off. You're like, what is that? I can't, and then you just forget everything.
It has its own atmosphere.
It bends bolts. Meg, do you think this was also just a ridiculously impressive ditch?
It didn't bother me at all.
Really?
I don't know. No, I didn't know. I didn't notice. I don't know. I mean, I've read this book 3 times.
You are the expert literally about it then.
No, I mean, okay.
For the record, it also didn't bother me. I'm playing it up a little. I did not notice it, for the record. That's why I phrased that until Charles pointed it out.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta let it go.
Yeah, sometimes it's Scar and Mufasa, or Scar and Simba fighting, and there's fire all around, and Simba can jump through the fire, and no one else can. And
It's definitely a story. I get it. So I wasn't speaking
Story
for
bliss.
everybody.
Oh, you were. No, you own it.
Absolutely.
You own it. But yeah, I did find that the heroes are better at things, and that's why they're heroes. But it was, yeah, the last fight I thought was really interesting because it was kind of just staged unlike a Star Wars fight we've seen in a while, with like a bunch of different places in the same plane. Like there was the Ziva Zori Poe fighting space, there was the Troon ship that landed, but also there was those other people couldn't get to the fighting space, and there's prisoners and guards, and there was a lot going on in the chaos of it. So that was a little interesting how he set that up. Another basic question: why is lightspeed skipping called hyperspace skipping every time in this book? I don't know.
Interchangeable terms?
Synonyms, you say? One might say synonyms. I would actually ask the better question: why in The Rise of Skywalker, when Poe goes to lightspeed, does he pull the lever down, and Han Solo in every movie pushes the lever up?
I've never noticed that.
No.
So I'm sorry
It's
for all
gonna
of you.
ruin me, man.
Like, very prominently at the end of Solo, Han and Chewie take them and push them up, and then Poe pulls it down every time he light speed skips.
No.
Maybe you can't light speed skip unless you pull it down.
Ooh!
But
Okay, you fixed
That's
it.
why
Everything's
Han
fine.
So we pull it down, your light speed skipping. When you have coordinates, you push it up. All right, we figured it out. Done. Guys, if we were in the story group, we would know this.
Oh, man, that's
Duh.
gonna infuriate me now every time I watch that movie.
Sorry. That's what we do here, folks. We get you to love the books a little more, and then we'll just throw in one thing that'll just drive you insane. Moving on, a couple more overarching questions we have before we are going to get into Charles's heralded Easter eggs. That always blows me away how he can find so many things in these books. We see the Zwal'Jin track Poe and the Ragged Claw through hyperspace in this novel. Wasn't that supposed to be brand new tech in The Last Jedi that Hux had developed? How do we explain the hyperspace tracking? Any ideas?
So, yes, I had just watched Rogue One probably a couple weeks ago.
So good.
So yeah, when Jin and what am I blanking on his name?
Cassian.
Yeah, when Jin and Cassian are looking for the Death Star plans, and they're trying to figure out which one are the actual plans, she goes through certain secret names, and the one right before Stardust is hyperspace skipping or something like that.
Yep.
So
hyperspace tracking.
Hyperspace tracking. So that was one of the plans that were on Scarif. So that was, right before episode 4.
This.
So they had it developed, I think, before. Maybe not developed fully, but they were working on it, researching it, creating it all throughout the original trilogy, I think.
Yeah, and I do feel that there's there's parts in Star Wars that are like hyperspace tracking. I feel has been somewhat of a thing, not like immediate. Like it would take a while. I feel like there's you can track the vectors that people may have taken, things like that. So there are ways around it. I am going to chalk this up to Charles not liking the book and finding a thing to get bothered about. Again, I love you, man. I miss you. But I'm running the ship now, and that's a stretch. Finally, though, this is a really good one that I really liked. If you know anything about us at UTN, particularly Meg and myself, we are suckers for epilogues in canon novels. Some of our favorites, bringing characters like Jyn Erso and Enfys Nest together, Sabe and our Lord and Savior Bail Organa together. It is great times to do little things that make us full of joy. And at the end of this particular book, Poe sees a holo at the end of Leia giving a speech and decides he's going to find her and he's going to join the Resistance. So how did you all feel? Meg, I'm going to start with you. How did it feel linking this story back to Leia? I mean, why is Poe's character so linked to her? I mean, especially in, I would say, The Last Jedi more than anything, we really see the two of them as a unit. What do you think about that?
They both, I was just very passionate about doing something, about changing something, about not just letting awful things continue to happen. And they both get that from their parents, respectively. So, I mean, and I think they see that in each other. They might not always know the right thing to do always about that. And they kind of feed off each other too with that. And Leia kind of becomes his mentor in that. And she's like, okay, you want to go fly off and, do all these things, but you have to think, so they have that in common. I think that's really important for Poe to have that kind of person in his life.
Yeah, it is interesting because it feels like the whole book and his whole life, Dameron, his dad is trying to get him to think and trying to get him to calm down. And the person that finally is able to do it is Leia. I do like that. I hadn't thought about that. Wes, what do you think? What do you think about ending this book with Leia being the reason that Poe is so inspired?
And I totally agree with what Meg said. But I think this particular scene felt a little too rushed to me. I think that Leia would have planted the seed kind of for him to be working for the greater good. I think he would have came to his senses after coming home and seeing that either he doesn't know if his dad has survived or not. So he could have died, and then maybe Lulo had tried to give him that boost to join the New Republic. But I think Leia has both Kes and Shara's characteristics, so that makes her the mentor, like Meg had said. I think that she kind of has the reserve and the intelligence not to rush into things without weighing the consequences, but she also has that creativity and the wherewithal to know when to take a risk over being safe, when you have to fight for that one thing that'll turn the tides of a battle.
Yeah, Leia is kind of like the epitome of what Poe thinks he is sometimes. Like, she is the risk taker and the politician in equal spades. Like, she knows when to stop, she knows when to pause, and she knows when to go all fire. And I think Poe learning from her from the start of his resistance training, quote unquote, I guess at the end of this book, all the way through losing her, I think is a really nice narrative that bonds them. And again, with Shara dying, I think that she is the mother that he lost too soon. I think she is kind of that relationship, and I do like them meeting. I will agree, Wes. I think the scene itself might have been a little rushed, but I do like what it stands for, and it is interesting.
Yeah.
All right, now we have a bunch of Easter eggs, everyone. I am gonna go through these. These are always some of my favorite things. So I have not read through these myself yet, so I'm going to discover them along with you. And here are some Easter eggs that Charles found while he was reading Poe Dameron Free Fall. Chapter 2, we get a Han Solo mention. Always lovely. Chapter 4 ends with a classic Star Wars line, "What have I done?" Fontis, the bartender at the cantina on Yavin 4 where Poe hangs out, claims to have a second sight for seeing troublesome people in his bar before they do anything wrong. It's not quite as cool as the Chiss second sight, but I'll take it. Fontis serves Poe something called Jawa juice, if you remember that from good old Dex's. Poe says, "Take me to the ship and we'll be out of here faster than the Millennium Falcon," which means the legend of that ship is well intact. Did the Spice Runners of Kijimi ever actually run spice? Not in this book, Charles, but they do. Poe and the Spice Runners go to the planet Sorgan, the same planet where the Mandalorian takes the child and they help the villagers fight the ATST. Fitting that a crew involving Vigulch would go there since he is a Klatooinian, which is the same species of the raiders who terrorized that village.
Oh, wow.
So awesome little Mandalorian tie-in there. Can't wait for season 2. We have a mention of Fear Nox. For a big discussion on Fear Nox, check out The Ghost Crew by me and Charlie. Zori says, "This isn't the space circus, Poe. So, is there a space circus?" Though it might not be intentional, this may be a callback to the actual space circus and Brian Daly's At Star's End from the Han Solo adventures.
Wow.
We got Obadiah is mentioned, homeworld of the Pikes. Fun fact, Tommaso is the name of an Italian restaurant on the island resort Charles used to work at over the summers. So he was thrown from the moment he met him. Charles pictured Chef Boyardee as Poe's mentor.
Man, he's not even letting up in the Easter eggs.
Oh my god, amazing. Amazing. Poe, about the Ragged Claw, says, "If we don't have the tracker settled, I think we can get a few more jumps out of this bucket of," and he referenced to Leia's insult about the Falcon, "this bucket of bolts." So, bucket of something. While lightspeed skipping, Poe almost jumps directly into the gaping mouth of a creature called a Garsath along the Devezra Way. Might this be the same creature this happens with in The Rise of Skywalker? Which would imply that Poe is using the same coordinates to lose the First Order ties. I totally think so. Last episode, we talked a little bit about lightspeed skipping. Like, he always has these coordinates in mind. I think that's totally the same beast. We got a mention of Purgils, speaking of Star Wars Rebels. DAC pirate droids are mentioned. These droids are actually from the old Legacy comics. When they were first used to disable electronic operating systems aboard starships, this is their first canon mention. Poe to EV6B6 says, "Listen, EV buddy, it's been nice meeting you, but we're not joining a cult together just yet." Yeah, who do we think we are? Chasna Chaddock? Nice, Charles. Leedsmar, or Lettismar, the Zabrak gangster who Poe kills, uses a traditional Zabrak weapon called a Zaboka. The weapon is basically a staff with a blade on either end that originated in KOTOR 2. It also made its way into Legends written material, including Darth Plagueis. This is its first canon appearance. Again, loving every time we bring in canon Legends tech into canon. Similarly, a Laertsa is mentioned, which is a traditional Twi'lek weapon. It was first seen in the X-Wing Rogue Squadron comic series when Wedge Antilles actually wielded one. Again, this is its first canon appearance.
This is the first time you've read through these, Eric?
Yes.
You were pronouncing these words incredibly well.
Oh, thank you. It's all the confidence. We have a quote that says, "So trusting, you'd follow a droid into the mouth of a Nexu." A Nexu reference! Attack of the Clones, our favorite beastie. Chakrut is mentioned, first seen in the Legends novel Han Solo's Revenge. This is a plant that could be made into snuff or liquor, a favorite of smugglers. A lot of Brian Daly Han Solo references here. We learn more about the Guavian Death Gang. They apparently use cybernetic enhancements and constantly pump chemicals into their blood to amplify their abilities. They communicate via high-frequency comm links so you don't hear them. They were too bad to even be considered part of the bad guys. I think they're just like hackers on meth. That's what I get from
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. They're cyberpunk as hell. Zori uses the blast door to cut off a Guavian gang member's leg. Is this the new thing? Mando? Maul in Clone Wars? And this? Watch out for the doors. Zori says, any smuggler worth his weight in merconite has some kind of goods on them. Merconite is one of the valuable minerals harvested from the lava of Mustafar. Soten's ship is a Corellian G9 rigger, first seen in the Clone Wars movie when Anakin and Ahsoka commandeer one. The slaves on Soten's ship are all kinds of great species. We got humans, we got Kubaz, like the long snout from A New Hope. We got Yakora, or Yak Face, a Dracelian, Prune Face, a Krolute, like Unkar Plut, and Duros, the greatest alien species of all time. At one point, Poe flies into the Torch Nebula, a space anomaly first mentioned in Galaxy Guide 9 Fragments from the Rim, a 1993 sourcebook from West End Games Star Wars role-playing game.
Holy crap. What
I just want to believe Charles knew that.
Okay.
We also get a mention of the Valacord, the instrument that Beckett swore he would learn to play after retiring from a smuggling life in Solo, a Star Wars story. We get a mention of lurkers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to the Kijimi Summit, a.k.a. the Star Wars Red Wedding. Very nice, Charles. And there are some very familiar faces. We get Boshek, the Corellian smuggler. He's actually from the Cantina in A New Hope. He's the one who introduced Old Ben to Chewbacca. We get Wone Barso, the guy dressed like an American astronaut from the 60s in the background of Rogue One. We get Astrid Fenris, one of the smugglers in the background of Solo, a Star Wars story in the lodge where Han finds Lando. A guest named Vranki is mentioned, but not described. Likely, this is Vranki the Blue, a Hutt first introduced in Star Wars Resistance. A Rhodian named Sivian Bane is mentioned. Interesting. There was a Rhodian rail smuggler in Star Wars Galaxies named Sivius Bane. Any relation? Terran Crow, the pirate next to Bane, is also from Star Wars Galaxies. Also of note, there's a human at the meeting named Karen. No cool background on her. I just think it's hilarious that the human is named Karen. Last couple. Zori says to Poe about killing the Spice Runners competition, "You either help us or you're against us." You heard it here first, folks. Zori Bliss is a Sith, because that's an absolute. Ziva trying to execute her foes in an arena with stands full of her followers feels a lot like Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker.
Definitely does.
We get a Chagrian Spice Runner, Masameda species. We really don't get those very often. And finally, one of the biggest cameos in this whole book, Zayd Caladay and his ship, the Midnight Blade, as seen in Black Spire, are how Poe escapes Kijimi. Love seeing Zayd again. That was a lot of fun. All right.
I did not catch that reference when I first read it. I was like, that name kind of tips the meter. It kind of sounds familiar, but I'm just going to go ahead and keep reading. And then I was like, wait a second. Then I pulled the book off the shelf, and I was like, it's that guy.
Amazing.
I love how they all tie in.
All right. Well, that is the last of the Easter eggs. Now, folks, as we always do at this time, we're going to go around. We're going to re-rate the book, see if our conversation changed our opinions anymore. We were all in the mid-ish sevens. Meg, you most recently rated a 7.4. Did this last hour of chat change that at all for you?
I mean, I'll bump it up to a 7.5.
Oh, big spender! That's right, a whole 0.1. Totally worth the hour. Wes, how about you, buddy?
I think I'm going to hang around my 7.8, maybe 7.7, 7.8 from the first time that I rated the book. Doesn't really make me want to reread it again, but I'm glad I got the backstory of why he was a smuggler. So that sounds...
Sure. I'm going to build up to a straight 8. 8.1. I talking about it, I really do like that we get more Zorian Poe. And the book really did have a nice pace for me. So I'm not a huge rereader, as I've said a bunch of times, so I'm not going to hit this one up again anytime soon. But the next time Alex Segura's name comes up for a Star Wars project, I will definitely get that little jolt of joy seeing him back. I'm very excited about him.
I did like the Babu Frick dialogue, though. That was fun reading his.
Oh my gosh, we didn't talk about Babu!
Oh.
Charles, what the hell? Yeah, all Babu is good Babu. Get all of it. I need all of the Babu and all the stories. I want Babu and Maz Kanata to have a comic series together.
Because we were all reading it in his voice whenever it came, when we were going through those pages.
Absolutely incredible. Fun fact, if you don't know, Babu Frick was voiced and puppeted by the same actress who did Moaning Myrtle in the Harry Potter movies. So, there's your little fun fact of the day. All right, so now, because of the format change, we're going to end the episode with a little Utini news. A couple reminders for y'all. Utini Game Night is still going very strong. Wes, what can people look forward to on Utini Game Night? Remember, this is going out Thursday, Friday, so if we have one this Wednesday, they will not be able to get that.
That's terrible, but it's also great because Game Night is going to be Friday night.
Hey!
So if you're
Look at that setup.
If you're a Utini patron, tune in tomorrow night to see me play either Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original, or there's a whole laundry list on Steam that I might buy. They're all like $5 or $6 or something. So it could be a mystery game. Not too sure. But if you're listening to us on Friday, join me tonight. I'll be playing a Star Wars game. So
yay!
And hey, depending, if you go onto Twitch and you buy some bits, if you buy enough bits, you can tell Wes to switch games.
It's true.
What?
If you pay enough money, we'll do whatever you want. That's how it works.
That's right. I'll even, I don't know, wear a hat. Just I do whatever you'd like for bits, and not just one bit like I do to our fellow Legends Look Back and staffers, where I just provide 1 cent, and I see the summary after the stream, and it says, you've collected 1 cent during this stream. So, whatever.
Well, hey, what a segue there, though, because Legends Look Back is still live as well.
Yay!
And if you're a patron, that's tonight. Legends Look Back will be coming at you, again, every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. Jared and Freddie, and possibly a surprise guest now and then. Meg and I have both been on that show a couple times. Patrick was on it recently talking about Revan. They are finding their stride as Freddy tries to escape the wildfires ravaging his home. On Saturdays, there's no good way out of that. On Saturdays in the Discord voice channels, we still have the Conja Book Club. That's Patrick and Adam and Timothy going through a few chapters at a time. Right now, they're doing Bloodline by Claudia Gray. If you're a patron on our Patreon feed, the audio podcast is being released there. It's your traditional book club. You read a couple chapters, they talk about it. You can comment on it in Discord every Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for, the Utini Fantasy Football Update. That's right, everyone. This year we started a Fantasy Football League with a bunch of Utini folks for the first time. And every week, I'm just going to tell you basically who had the best week. As we do these Monday night, there is Monday Night Football going on at this exact second, which I will be watching very soon. But it looks like our top scorer of this week is going to be Spice Den. That's right, Spice Den with the Indianapolis Orbach scored 162 fantasy points. off the backs of such players as Dalvin Cook, Chris Carson, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Mark Andrews. Congratulations, Spice Den, for your absolute domination of fantasy football this week. Very excited to see who wins after today's games. And yeah, stay tuned. Go on the sports channel of the Discord. We talk about that a lot. It's a lot of fun. All right. Last thing I'm going to say, my friends. We, at the time of recording, let me pull it up, are very close to our next Patreon goal, which I might remind you is Corey Helton, Dr. Corey Helton, when he gets back from his sabbatical, reading I, Jedi. We're $18 away from that. So if you're just listening and you feel like, I got a couple bucks, find us on patreon.com/Utini. Before we get out of here, Meg, can you please give us a couple new updates on what's happening with Project Stardust that people can look out for?
I can. We're about to publish 2 articles, actually. We interviewed Maggie about your fundraiser. So Yay! That will be up at some point. It's already up when you're listening to this. So there you go.
It's up now. Yes. It's over. It's up.
Yeah, and then this is fun. We have a piece on Gina Carano and things going up.
Fun!
Also will be up by the time that you're listening. So yay, we're writing things. It's fun. Come check out our Twitter for all the things. Yay!
Yay! Awesome. Well, so much great Star Wars awesomeness. Everyone, one final thing that we want to say. Thank you for joining us in this audio-only podcast. We are taking next week off completely. Corey, of this show, to be clear. We will still have Legends Look Back will still be going. There'll be game nights. There'll be Utini content. But the Living Force is taking, I believe, our first ever week off. We have been coming out with weekly episodes 77 weeks in a row. And we're going to take, we're taking 1 week to regroup, refresh. And on that note, we want to just say that if you are having a particularly tough time, if life's getting busy for you like it is for the doctors, myself, some other people, it's okay to take a step back now and then. Refresh, get some sleep, drink some water. It's all right.
I definitely believe in those last 2 things, sleeping and drinking water.
My gosh, it is revolutionary. But we will be taking next week off. Again, though, if you go to utini.com/Discord, if you want to hang out and chat, we'll be around. We'll still be publishing stuff over on the YouTube channel. But 2 weeks from now, I suppose, from time of recording, we will be back on Monday, September 28th, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I do believe Meg will be back in a different capacity as a creator of Project Stardust. We're talking all about that site, and God only knows what kind of Star Wars will be happening between now and then. Mm-hmm. So we will see you then, my friends, and that will do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. Again, last couple links, utini.com/Discord, utini.com/Patreon. A special thank you to Cheryl Bell, Alec Householder, and Patrick Ortiz on our Jedi High Council, and Kyle Hickman and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for their amazing support of this show and everything Utini. You can find us on Twitter. I am at Eric Eilerson. Wes is at Boss Wes. Meg is at, is it just at Meg Dowell, right?
It is.
At Meg Dowell. We are at Living Force Pod. Corey and Charles are at Doc Star Wars MD and at C. Hankel. A special thank you, as always, though, to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer, and Wes, our host, our man, our producer, our community manager, our hat-wearing game master. Thank you to Wes and Meg for podcasting with me tonight, and as always, may the Force be with you.
There is no hatred. There is joy. There is no division. There is union. There is no apathy. There is passion. There is no gatekeeping. There is community. This is the Utini Star Wars Fan Code. Embrace it, live by it, and above all, trust in the Living Force. That's all for this week. Join our community and surround yourself with like-minded fans by visiting us online at utini.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you.